Welcome back everyone, and welcome to a new tag video for 2024. I love doing tag videos, especially at the end of the year, and this one is going to be the eyeshadow palette tag. This is a tag video that I started 4 years ago, and I have a handful of different questions, and I'm just going to answer each question with a palette in my collection. Some of the questions are like my eyeshadow palette collection in general. Some are specific to the year of 2024, which again is why I like to do them at the end of the year. I would love to hear your answers to these questions in the comment section, or if you're a content creator, I would love if you did this tag video as well. I will list all of the questions in my description box if you want to check there for them. I will also link any of the palettes that I can in my description box, or you should see some popping up in the YouTube shopping button as well. But I do like to do the tag videos at the end of the year. Again, we have like some wrap up videos going on. I'm in the middle of my declutter series. I have Best of Beauty coming up, and I have a few different tag videos that I want to do as well. But I wanted to do the eyeshadow palette tag first because I'm actually getting ready to do my eyeshadow palette declutter. So I've already posted 5 parts of my declutter series. So if you like declutters, you can make sure to check those out. But doing this tag video gave me a reason to kind of look over my collection, see what I had, and also kind of prepare me mentally for the declutter that I am about to do. But let's jump into it with the first question, and that is, what is the newest palette to your collection right now? And for me, that is the new holiday palette from Nomad Cosmetics, and this is the Polar Express palette. So I just got this one, and I'm not sure if my video is already going to be up. I have a video coming with 3 holiday makeup looks, and I do use the Nomad Polar Express in one of them, and I actually use the blue eyeshadows, which is very rare for me. I'm not a blue eyeshadow girly, I say that all of the time, but when I got this palette and opened it, immediately my eyes were drawn to that blue section, and I was like, okay. So when I decided to do some holiday makeup looks, I thought blue, like this, like the term icy is really going around right now for holiday and like winter themed makeup, and this blue I felt like gave me a really icy look. And if you follow me on Instagram, March Beauty Word, I posted a photo in there of this blue look, and I immediately was getting so many DMs like, what is the blue eyeshadow? What palette did you use? And it was the Nomad Polar Express. So this is the newest palette to my collection right now. I really love the Nomad eyeshadows. I've been talking about their palettes and the quality of their formula for a really long time now. I do have a discount code with them, which is Samantha. I also love that so many of their palettes are travel themed. I just think that's so cute. I'm a travel girly myself. And with the Polar Express palette, like I love kind of like the vintage photo on the front here. Again, quality is fantastic, but that is the newest palette in my collection. And then I also wanted to ask, what has been one of your favorite palettes of 2024? Again, I know it's like I'm asking the questions to myself, but I really feel like I'm also asking the questions to you all as well. So I would love to know. Quick caveat too, I really hate that YouTube just did an update to our app. So if you have noticed, myself or maybe other content creators aren't real quick at responding to your comments anymore, YouTube updated their app, and now when we go into the app, we can only see 3 comments at a time. That's it. I can answer those comments, and then I have to go out, refresh, come back in, and then I can see 3 more comments. It's fantastic. I feel like I've typically been pretty good, not always great, especially during busy times, but like I've been pretty good at responding to my comments, and now it just has made it so difficult. So shout out YouTube for helping out creators that way. But the next question is, what was one of your favorite palettes of 2024? And for me, I chose out the Sigma Beauty Cool Neutrals palette. So this is a palette that I got a little bit of an early sneak peek on this one. We, my event planning company, Creators and Friends, worked with Sigma Beauty when we did our trip to New Orleans. We took like 32 content creators to New Orleans to stay for a week. It's like a reality show of, what was that show called? The Real World or whatever. You put a bunch of strangers into a house, except you put a bunch of content creators into a house for a week. But we were working with Sigma Beauty on the Cool Neutrals launch. So I knew that this was the palette, and I knew the concept of it, but I hadn't seen it until we got to the party, where that's where we got like the early look at it. And I remember getting to the dinner, seeing the palettes on the table, and I was like, I have to see what this eyeshadow palette looks like. I opened it and I was like, are you joking me? I can remember my reaction of being like, this palette is so freaking beautiful. I also just love the Sigma Beauty palettes. I have talked about them being a top 3 brand for eyeshadow formulas for a couple of years now. I just think that they are fantastic, but I love the way that they did this palette. It's called the Cool Neutrals, and I think it's really interesting because there's definitely cool tone shades, there's neutral shades, and there's also a few warm tone shades in there. And I love that, like, to me, I feel like Sigma is a brand that just like does things the way that they want to do things. I don't think that they necessarily follow like trends, virality, or like what's just like cool. Like they do what they think is best. They do what they know works. They create quality products. Like Sigma is also one of those brands that doesn't constantly churn out products, but when they do come out with releases, you know that they're going to be good quality. And I just feel like the cool neutrals kind of signify that as well. But the Sigma formula is so beautiful. The shades in here are gorgeous. This instantly became one of my favorites for the year when it released back in, it would have been April, May, that this palette released. I do have a discount code with Sigma, and that is Samantha. Next up, I just wanted to do a fun one, and I said, show a palette that you have hit pan in. I thought that would be a good time, right? So the palette that I have to show you is from Kaleidos, and this one is their Venus Trap palette. It's a small pan, but you can see it. It's a small pan, but it's there. And when I hit pan in the shade, I was like, because I don't hit pan in eyeshadows very often. Bronzers, give me a bronzer and I'm gonna pan that thing. Like powder foundations, I can do it. But to hit pan in an eyeshadow, I was like, dang girl. There was a time that I was traveling quite a bit. You know what is so funny? I just had an instant flashback. Who knew me back in the day where I loved Marvelous Mauves from Dose of Colors? This is almost the exact shade of the shade that I hit pan in that palette. I didn't even think about that until right now. It just hit me right now. I use this palette so much. I think I got this palette around the time, I think I got it in 2023, I want to say. I think I got it in a time of like turmoil. There was a time in my life last year where my apartment had broken into. I was robbed of quite a few of my belongings. I was displaced from my apartment. I was living with friends. My dog was also dying of cancer at the same time. There was a lot going on. And I was basically living out of like just one little makeup bag, and this was the palette that I chose. So it's one of those that like, sometimes when I think about this palette and why I hit pan in it, I'm like, wow, that was a really hard time in your life. But also with all bad times that you go through, there's something positive on the other side. There's silver linings on the other side. You go through hard things, you get knocked down in life. That's always going to be the circle of life. You know, when I talk about healthy habits, I always mention about you're going to fall off. You're going to lose your routine. You're going to not do your healthy habits every single day, but you're going to get back to it. And guess what? You're going to get back on your cycle and something else is going to knock you down, and then you got to get back up. And so I guess when I look at this palette, and I look at the pan in here and I think about where I was in life at that time and how hard it was, I can also see that, you know, a year later, like just over a year later, this is where I'm at now. And I have a lot of positives going on in my life and a lot of things to be really grateful for. And so I guess instead of looking at this palette and feeling sadness, even though I'm saying this with tears in my eyes, but I cry at everything. Instead of looking at this palette and feeling sadness, I can feel strength. I can feel that I overcame some really, really hard times that all came in conjunction with one another. It was just one after the other, after the other, right? So I choose to look at this palette and I see strength. So that is an eyeshadow palette that I've panned. What is an eyeshadow palette you didn't expect to love? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for me, it's the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. I bought this palette, as I do with most Natasha palettes. Natasha Denona, again, I'm talking about favorite formulas. I always say Natasha Denona, Sigma Beauty, Odens Eye. You're gonna see all three brands in this video. I bought this palette from Natasha Denona, as I do most of her palettes. And I tried it and I was like, it's probably not gonna be for me. And you know, as I said, I don't think it's like a bad palette. I think Natasha's formula is great. I think Natasha Denona has a fabulous eyeshadow formula. Always recommending, right? I have a discount code with Natasha. It's SAMANTHAMARCH. I don't get PR though, but that's okay. I still buy the palettes anyways. And so I tried it the first few times. I was like, I think there's like a little bit too much white in there. Like, I don't know. I like palettes with this color scheme. I like the gray tones. I like the black and white. I like the silvers. I like the icy blues and the cool tone blues. I think it's really fun. But I'm like, you know, for a $69 eyeshadow palette, I'm probably not going to love it. Within a couple of months, I was eating those words, and I can't remember exactly what video it was that I came on and talked about it, but I was like, nope, I really like this eyeshadow palette, and this is another palette that you're going to see featured in my holiday makeup look video. I did a look for a holiday party a few weeks ago, and I loved it so much. I was like, I have to redo this for a YouTube video because I just love it so much, and I actually use a lot of the whites in here, and the shimmers are so beautiful. This, to me, again, it was one of those on first try. I was like, nah, not gonna be for me, but I'm glad I kept trying it and showing it some love because I think it's great. All right, I mentioned Odens Eye, so let's talk about them for a minute. I have on here a favorite collab palette. Okay, this palette, this is one of my friends who did this collaboration with Odens Eye, but when I saw the inside of this, I said, Amanda, did you make this palette for me? I remember talking about it in a video and I said, Amanda, Makeup Just for Fun, did you make this eyeshadow palette for me? So this is Odens Eye and Makeup Just for Fun, the Flora Story palette. This is so beautiful. So I am a very basic girl when it comes to my eyeshadows. I'm barely, like, I'm not even wearing an eyeshadow palette today. I'm wearing shadow sticks from Rare Beauty, okay? Like, as I'm doing the eyeshadow palette tag. But I love browns and neutrals and all the things, right? But I also love greens and purples. I saw this palette and I was like, you're joking me. Like, you're actually joking me. Are you not, Amanda? This palette is so beautiful and I just wanted to give it another shout out. Amanda also did a collaboration with Fantasy Cosmetics this year. I think that palette is so beautiful as well. Like, big shout out to the Enchanted Autumn palette. That one is gorgeous. But this one, the Flora Story palette, this one has just always gotten me. I just think it's so pretty. This like dawn shade is so fun and cool. Again, the purples, the greens in here, this sage is like that, like kind of like mossy green. It's so beautiful. And the Odens Eye formula is so, so nice. Again, Natasha, Sigma, Odens Eye. I do have a discount code with Odens Eye, which is Samantha, but this is such a beautiful collab palette. And then also with Odens Eye, I had put on here like a PR favorite. So this one is going to be a little bit more geared toward content creators, but if you want to answer in the comment section, maybe it's like a palette that was gifted to you and you were like, oh, you know, this ended up being a favorite of mine, or I really liked this palette or something along those lines. But when I was thinking about PR, because again, this video isn't just specifically based for 2024, some questions are, but when I was thinking about this of like, okay, what company started to send me PR? And I was like, oh, wait a second, I really like that. And to me, it was Odens Eye. I think for me, getting the Solmani 2 palette back in like 21 or 22, that was one of the first palettes that I was like, oh, okay, that's really beautiful. I grabbed out the one of the newer ones from the Solmani 2 collection. This one is the Moon Wish palette. And again, like Odens Eye is kind of more known for their colorful eyeshadows. I feel like kind of a lot of indie, not all indie brands by any means, but like a lot of indie brands are known for kind of more like colorful and unique color stories. So that original Solmani 2 was one that I really kind of fell in love with. The Moon Wish one is so beautiful. Their holiday collection palettes are always so stunning. This is the one from last year. This is the Merry Christmas palette. I remember getting this one and being like, oh boy, like the red and the green in here, so beautiful. Then you have some golds. Also their latest holiday palette you're gonna see in the 3 looks as well. My friend Ashley used the palette this morning and I have no idea where she put it. I was like scouring her home like, where'd you put that eyeshadow palette, girl? But their new holiday palette that has the red in there as well, that's, I'm gonna do a red look in that holiday looks video. But Odens Eye is one of those that I'm like, I don't know if I wouldn't have started receiving PR from them if I would have like ended up realizing how much I enjoy their eyeshadow palettes. So definitely a brand to check out. Again, I have a discount code with them, which is just Samantha. What is a palette that is not a favorite of yours, but you don't feel like you can declutter? So for me, I chose out one from Patrick Ta. This is the Major Dimension 2 palette. This to me is a very pretty palette. I think I create some pretty looks with it. I like the color scheme in here. We have the more like pinky rosy theme. You have 2 cream shadows, which I like because I think that it makes it a little like unique to my collection. Shimmers are really easy to use. The mattes are super soft and very easy to blend. While it's not a favorite of mine, I don't think that it's a bad eyeshadow palette. I also think another reason why I keep this one though is because I loved the Major Dimension, the original, a little bit more, and it shattered and it broke. And I remember posting a video about it, showing it shattered on the floor with the song Arms of an Angel by Sarah McLachlan in the background, and everyone was in the comments was just like, oh no. And I was like, oh no. So honestly, I feel like through my declutters, I probably would have decluttered this one and kept the original, but because I don't have the original, I keep this one. So I kind of think that's why I do it, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, I was very sad when that original broke, but still a pretty palette, like still one that I'm glad I had. And again, I felt like I would have kept one of the Patrick Ta palettes. It's just the other one was dead on arrival, truly. But along those lines, a question that actually came from my YouTube members. I was asking the members in my group chat. So I do have memberships on YouTube. I do member exclusive videos every month and also live Zooms as well. We also have an Instagram group chat. And I was asking the group chat some tag questions, and someone said, what is a palette that you would repurchase immediately if you like lost it or it broke or something along those lines? And I was like, ooh, good question. And as I was looking at my collection, this is the one that I kept coming back to, which was actually in my travel makeup bag. I took this on my most recent trip to Reno, Nevada with me. But this is from Natasha Denona again. This is the Mini My Dream palette. The Mini My Dream collection from Natasha Denona, one of my favorites. The blush, I'm actually wearing the blush today. Also in my travel makeup bag. The eyeshadow palette, beautiful. This shade has such a large dip in it. The mattes are gorgeous. The lips, the lip liner, and the lip gloss, my favorite lip combo since that collection came out. Just think it's beautiful. That whole collection to me is one of Natasha's like top works. And again, that's a favorite brand of mine. I love a lot of the products. That collection specifically, I think is bomb. But this is a palette that, to me, when I was thinking like, okay, what would I repurchase right away? Because sometimes if you're buying a palette that's $40, $50, $60, you're like, oh, okay, like maybe I panned one shade, do I need it? Or maybe it broke, but like, is there like something else that I can replace it with? So this palette is $27, I believe the minis are now, which is still not like the cheapest in the world, but I love the minis. I love them for, again, like I said, I travel a lot. I have an on-the-go makeup bag because I'm always kind of scattered all over Las Vegas. And this to me is just such an easy travel palette. One of the first palettes that I fell in love with from Natasha Denona was her mini nude palette. And I was like panning those shades. I was using those shades up. And because it was just like that basic neutral palette that I know will never let me down and is a good formula, I loved it so much. And I feel like this one has kind of replaced that one. But the Mini My Dream, I really do feel like if I were to lose that one, like I think I actually left my foundation in Reno, which is very sad. I was staying at a hotel and I think I either left it there or it fell out. It's my Urban Decay Face Bond and I'm like, oh no. So I'm like, if I would have left like the Mini My Dream in Reno, I think I would be on the Natasha Denona or the Sephora website ordering it right now. Probably Natasha Denona because I do have a discount code and I'll use my own discount code, which is SAMANTHAMARCH. But that is one that I love that little palette. And then speaking of traveling, I have, again, this came in from the group chat. This is a little bit specific to me because I do travel a lot, but this could be if you travel a lot, maybe if you commute to work, like you do your makeup on the train, you do your makeup in your car, I don't know, whatever it is that you want to do. You do your makeup at work. You know, when I worked at the hospital, I always did my makeup at the hospital at my desk because I didn't have enough time in the morning because I had such a long drive. But what is a palette that I traveled with the most this year? Looking at my palettes, there's quite a few that I could say, and I'm going to kind of link this with the next question as well. But for me, I chose the Natasha Denona Hyper Natural Face Palette. Obviously, Natasha is a favorite brand of mine. You're seeing a lot of her palettes mentioned in here. But this one, to me, was such a great travel palette because you got eyeshadows, and then you also got bronzer and blush. So for me, this was such a multi-use palette, and you also have a big mirror on here. So for me, this was such an easy one for me to grab when I was going, especially if I was quite limited in space. If I didn't have a checked bag, if I was only taking a carry-on and I was trying to make a pretty small makeup bag, this to me was so easy. I didn't have to bring an extra bronzer. I didn't have to bring an extra blush. I didn't have to bring an extra eyeshadow palette. I had so much right here. Like this and a couple eyeshadow sticks. Like I would be good to go. So this one, I know, I feel like this palette got a little bit of like mixed feedback, but for me, I love it. And I don't know if you can tell, like these eyeshadows are messy. They are messy. Like this one, I'm surprised I haven't hit pan in it. There's been a couple of times that I've looked and I've been like, have I hit pan in it? But I haven't yet. I use like this dark one for liner. You can kind of see like the winged liner brush jabs in that one, but I love the Hyper Natural Face Palette. But kind of along those lines, I had, what was the first palette that I used in 2024? And when I was making the questions, because I was looking at the questions that we did from 4 years ago, and then I didn't do this video last year, but when I did it like 2 years ago, I kind of was like merging some of those questions with questions from the group chat, and this is what we came up with. But when I saw what was the first palette that I used in 2024, and I was like, okay, where was I in 2024, like January 1st, 2024, I was in Ireland. That's wild. Like that's so wild for me to think about. Ireland was the first time that I did a group travel trip with my community. And that was this year. We left the day after Christmas and we went to Ireland for like 10 days, 12 days. It was a long time that we were in Ireland. And we went out on the night of New Year's, and we came home, I think like the day, like January 3rd or something like that, we came home. But the palette, and this is also another palette that I travel with so much, so I wanted to link these together. But the palette that I wore the night of New Year's, and that I basically just brought this palette on the trip, and it's from Sigma Beauty, and it's the Peach Pie palette. And this to me is just so funny. And it's why I love doing tag videos. It's why I like doing these at the end of the year and looking back at the year, because I travel with this one so much. You've seen it consistently in my travel makeup bag videos. I remember doing one from Maine and I'm like, this is the only eyeshadow palette that I brought. A lot of times I bring a palette like this, and then again, like eyeshadow sticks. Like I have the Rare Beauty shadow sticks on today. I talk about those eyeshadow sticks all the time. They're very travel friendly. But these little palettes from Sigma are also so travel friendly. I feel like I'm never worrying about them breaking or anything. They're so small, they're so compact. I love that you get the two mattes, and the shimmers in this palette are so, so beautiful. Like I said, I wore this on New Year's. I take this on so many trips, but I actually then went on to do a favorites collab with Sigma Beauty that came out in the summer, and this is the quad that I put in that palette. So to me, I seen that, that was such a full circle moment, because I never really thought about what was the first palette that I used this year, right? But then I think about that. I think about traveling. I think about the special memories in Ireland. I think about being with the community. Then I think about doing a collab with Sigma, which is one of my favorite brands for eyeshadows. And I'm like, what a full circle moment. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. So that was the first palette used. Also on that Ireland trip, I brought the Rare Beauty Shadow Stick in Contentment. I'm wearing Perspective today and a little bit of Wellbeing, I think it is. So I love those shadow sticks from Rare Beauty. But another question that I had on the list was a palette that sparks joy in you. And actually the palette that I wrote down was Peach Pie. And the reason that I wrote it down is because I did my collaboration with Sigma. I just thought it was really special. I also had like a whole little night with my friends. Some of my closest friends in Vegas. We went out to dinner and we went to like a little lounge bar, and I got to give everyone the collection, and they were just so supportive. And I felt like I just got to share like that part of my life with my friends here who had never really seen that or like been a part of that with me. And I think especially to have such a strong group of women around me at that dinner, and who were just like so excited and so congratulatory. And, you know, it was just a group of women that really inspire me, and they really motivate me, and they really support me. It just felt like such a special moment. It really felt like such a special moment, because I guess for a long time I hadn't really felt that way. I felt very misunderstood in my career. You know, several years ago, I didn't feel like those close in my life really supported or thought that what I did was of any significance. And moving, you know, changing my life, getting divorced, moving to Las Vegas, and then meeting so many other women who are entrepreneurs or go-getters in their careers, and who are also just so supportive of other women. That was how I felt that night. So when I thought about like what sparks joy in me, it wasn't like this palette because it was so expensive, this palette because it got me a lot of views. It was this palette because not even the collaboration part of it, but I think about that night and how special that dinner was to me, and just the way that my friends made me feel. That's what sparks joy in me. So that's the Peach Pie palette. And then, not to like keep crying, goodness gracious, but what is the palette that I keep for the memories? I pulled out the Tiny Marbles palette. So this is with Sydney Grace, and this was a collaboration with Mel Thompson, who was a friend of mine and has passed away, but this is a palette that I'll just never get rid of. Just so many good memories around this palette. Mel is someone who I really wish that I would have met in real life. I think about the creators and friends events that we're doing now, and trips that we're doing with other content creators, and like we just had our holiday party last week. I just posted a vlog of that, and I think about Mel being there, and if I had been able to meet her, how exciting that would have been. But this is such a beautiful palette, and it's also just a beautiful formula, and to me, like especially the cover, everything just like embodies Mel so much that it's a palette that I can't get rid of. All right, and then the last one we have is an underrated palette. So I chose out one from Fantasy Cosmetica. I think Fantasy, like, I don't want to say that I feel like they're an underrated brand, because I think a lot of people understand how good the eyeshadows are. I remember when I took the trip to Maine and we had people do what was in their travel makeup bags, there was so much Fantasy Cosmetica in that video, and I was like, this is so cool. And the owner, Jordan, is so nice, just like such a sweet person. I got to meet her when we did trips in Austin, and she's just so fantastic. And I like made sure to tag her in that video because I was like, look how much Fantasy Cosmetica people brought on this trip. But this one is the Cradled in Ice palette. I just think this palette is so pretty. I had it in a pretty recent Get Ready With Me as well, and I just think that it's so pretty, and they have such a good formula also. This Frost shade is just like next level, so beautiful. Again, the shimmers in here are so stunning. The mattes are so easy to use. So I wanted to shout out the Cradled in Ice palette, but also just Fantasy Cosmetica in general. Again, Amanda, or Makeup Just for Fun, did a collaboration. The Enchanted Autumn palette that I mentioned earlier was in collaboration with Fantasy Cosmetica, and just everything about that collection like is so fantastic as well. So wanted to mention that, and I also do have a discount code with Fantasy, and that is Samantha. So that is the eyeshadow palette tag for 2024. Again, leave your palette choices in the comment section if you're a creator. I would love to see you do this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.